Hey, during the NFL draft, a lot of teams can get a lot of great value. Unfortunately, in fantasy football, there's a lot of players who lose value on NFL draft day. Who are some of the losers here in 2019? I got a couple of them. What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Hey, listen, today we're talking about losers. And no, we're not just going to sit here and talk about the people we don't like in real life. We're going to talk about some people who lost some fantasy football value here in 2019. The NFL draft is over, and some of these draft picks may have given us a glimpse of kind of what's to come with some of these respected teams. I got a few names listed here on the side of the screen here. These are who we're going to be talking about today. However, before I get into it, want to make sure I remind you we're giving away a free autographed Juju Smith-Schuster jersey. Head over to my Twitter at Fantasy Headliners, FNTSY Headliners. Make sure you follow the quick and easy directions on my pinned tweet on my profile, and then you will be entered to win that autographed jersey. If you don't have a Twitter, take 30 or 45 seconds after this video and go sign up for one. For nothing else, it could at least be for our free giveaways all throughout the season. Don't miss out on that. And then also be sure to check out our website, thefantasyheadliners.com. A ton of great information over there in article form, and also links to buy our draft guide coming up for 2019. If you really want to dominate fantasy football, we got you covered here for only $19.99 for the entire season. Make sure you go check that out. But now, let's get into a few losers of value in 2019. First guy we're talking about, Mike Davis, running back, Chicago Bears. Now here early in the year, there wasn't really much other options on the Bears outside of Tariq Cohen to really take some early down work, carries in Chicago. Mike Davis was about to be a draft day steal for a lot of people just because of the potential volume he could have gotten. Well, the Bears went out and drafted David Montgomery, a great running back, a Kareem Hunt-esque type running back, and he was going to an offense with a coach who's familiar with that style of running back with Matt Nagy. He came from Kansas City, and David Montgomery is the superior talent. Don't get it mixed up. Nothing against Mike Davis, but David Montgomery will end up winning the early down work in this offense and taking the bulk of the carries. The bulk of the carries that were abandoned by the departure of Jordan Howard, who has had over 250 carries multiple times in his career in this backfield. That's a big chunk of volume that's going to be available. Now, do they all of a sudden give all 250 carries to David Montgomery? More than likely not. I'm sure Mike Davis will still be worked into the mix, but David Montgomery, somebody who you'll be able to get in the later rounds of your fantasy football draft, could really have some huge potential as we get later and later into the season. Love that upside of him, but it really hurts the value of Mike Davis, who's really unproven. Right? He had a decent 2018 with Seattle where he had 112 rushes, 514 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But like I said, that was in Seattle. Seattle was the number one rushing offense in all of football between him, Penny, and Chris Carson. They ran the ball a butt ton in Seattle, and he benefited from it. This is something we just kind of need to monitor here in the offseason. As long as David Montgomery stays healthy. Now, if there's an injury there, yes, Mike Davis' value will shoot right back up. However, as of today, I'm really starting to fade Mike Davis because David Montgomery is going to be the guy end of season that you really want to own, taking that early down work out of Chicago. I think this is a fitting spot to then fade into Jordan Howard, who is next on the list. Like I said, no longer in Chicago, traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, and at the time, a lot of us got a little bit excited because we thought we could find some late round value because his ADP was crazy low, was Jordan Howard's. Going to a Philadelphia Eagles offense with an above average offensive line. But they drafted Miles Sanders, who was my number one rookie running back coming out of the draft, going to Philadelphia. And now this backfield, it's gotten beyond crazy. You have Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders, Wendell, don't tell me I have Smallwood, Corey Clement, and Josh Adams. Now, do I expect all of these pieces to be there week one? Probably not. However, Miles Sanders will be the superior talent to Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard really needs a lot of volume to get you those numbers. He's not one of these explosive break tackle type running backs who's going to add value in the passing game. That's just not his style, especially here in Philadelphia. Like I said, being that he needs to have that volume, he's averaged 17 attempts per game for his career. I don't see him getting that in this backfield here in Philadelphia. And also his yards per carry has dropped every year of his career. It was down to 3.7 yards per carry in 2018. Kind of shows you that lack of explosiveness, the lack of that big play ability. Yes, he's great around the goal line, a bruising downhill running back, but his opportunities are going to be limited with the amount of options they have there in Philadelphia. They also added wide receivers through the draft. They got J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. They already had Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar and Zach Ertz. Lots of options here. They're not going to sit there and pound the ball to Jordan Howard anymore 20 times a game. Just not going to happen. And because of it, he's going to lose a lot of value. Now, if something were to happen where Miles Sanders gets injured or he can't pick up the playbook right away and they do deal some of these other pieces or move on from them, here throughout the offseason, Jordan Howard is still need to pay attention to. We just really need to watch it here in the offseason because as of right now, I have zero interest in owning Jordan Howard. On to the speedy Marquise Goodwin now, wide receiver out of San Francisco. I was crazy high on Marquise Goodwin last year, but I had a reason to be. When the connection between Goodwin and Garoppolo at the end of 2017 was taking place, it was really kind of setting the stage for a big 2018. In the 6 games they played with each other in the end of 2017, Goodwin averaged over 100 yards receiving 4 out of those 6 games. However, they both dealt with injuries most of 2018, couldn't get on track. However, they're back this year. The bad part about it is San Francisco went out and drafted Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurd, 2 pass-catching options out of college. And the emergence of Dante Pettis is a real thing. We saw it at the end of last season. He had 37 targets over his last 6 games. Now, that was not with Jimmy G. How does he mesh with Jimmy G? That kind of remains to be seen, something we'll pay attention to here in the offseason. But there are more options, more pass-catching options in San Francisco now. We know they get Jerick McKinnon back. They just brought in Tevin Coleman. They already have Matt Breida. There's 64 running backs in San Francisco. We know Kyle Shanahan likes to be creative with his offenses. Some of these running backs get time out of the slot. There's so many different combinations that he can use with the pieces that he has. I'm kind of afraid that Marquise Goodwin could become home run dependent, big play touchdown dependent on a weekly basis. And if that's the case, unless you're in a best ball league, I'm kind of backing away from Marquise Goodwin. Let's see how the chemistry goes between the rest of these wide receivers. They're great talents in Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurd. They're going to have an opportunity, but how much of a target share do they get? That's what we need to pay attention to, because if that target share creeps up, it's only going to hurt the value of Marquise Goodwin even more. Biggest question mark of them all, Todd Gurley. What do we do with Todd Gurley? We've been talking about it for months, ever since the season ended. Is he injured? Is it going to linger on forever? It's arthritis, so more than likely, it'll be forever. But how much does it really limit his workload? Do they go to more of a committee approach in LA? Then CJ Anderson left, and we all kind of said, well, maybe he'll be okay. Then they used a 3rd-round draft pick on a running back in Darrell Henderson, somebody who's capable of a big workload. He could be the insurance policy for one Todd Gurley. Now, with all of that being said, do I think Gurley plays this season? Yes, I do. Do I think we see him getting huge volume? That's where it could take a hit. They could go to a more of a running back committee approach, kind of like we saw at the end of last year with him and CJ Anderson. And personally, I don't know if I want to deal with that for somebody that I'm going to be picking in the first, top 5 picks of my fantasy football draft. I'm not interested in it. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I've said in other videos, everybody has value on draft day. It just depends on where you can get them in the draft. And when I say everyone, yes, this probably means Devin Funchess too. It just depends how late in the draft you can get these guys. You don't want to reach. Now, if Todd Gurley falls in your draft, that's a gamble that you're got to be willing to take. I'm just not willing to take it in the top 5 picks. To me, this says that the Rams are a little bit worried, and if they're worried, I probably should be too. Cam Newton up next here for the Carolina Panthers. And a lot of people I don't think are as worried about Cam Newton as maybe they should be. Yes, you see him out there in the media and he seems fine. Looks like he's going to be good to go. However, how much of these injuries of the past do we have to worry about in 2019? He's definitely somebody who has that injury risk tag. And then the Carolina Panthers went out and drafted Will Grier, quarterback out of West Virginia, in the 3rd round. And a lot of people are like, yeah, well, they needed a backup quarterback. And I agree, they did. However, Will Grier is somebody who is pretty highly touted coming out of the NFL draft. There was even talks at one point of him being the Tom Brady successor in New England. Now, obviously that didn't happen, but the kid does have talent, and he's a hometown boy here from the North Carolina area. Don't sleep on the fact that this pick had some calculations, built into it. They're kind of starting to think ahead here in Carolina. What do we do with Cam Newton after the 2020 season when his contract is up? Is he worth another huge contract? Look where the contracts are going right now. Are they going to want to spend another huge number like that on Cam Newton, who just can't stay healthy? He's had shoulder concerns. Last time I checked, shoulders are pretty important for quarterbacks. And there's at times last season where he just seemed to kind of short arm it, like he was worried about the shoulder. What kind of effects do we see going forward in 2019? If he struggles, if he's hurt again, and Will Grier gets this opportunity, it's a big opportunity for him. They didn't add any main pass catching options anyway early in the draft. They have Chris Hogan here now. They got Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore. There's options here, especially with Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, but they're all young, not a real big option, not a solidified number one receiving threat in this offense. And it's not really helping Cam Newton's case. I think they're trying to get a lot faster on offense, trying to make these short intermediate routes, give Cam time just to dump the ball off, because they really don't want him scrambling any more than he really has to, even though it's a huge part of his game. Too many injury concerns. The drafting of Will Grier leads me to believe that, especially in dynasty leagues, if you have Cam Newton, you may want to try to start selling high because they may not re-sign him. And what kind of situation does he get into here in the future? Tons of question marks. Regardless, he's lost value here after the NFL draft. Let's talk about Doug Baldwin, wide receiver, Seattle Seahawks, somebody who's been highly productive in this offense whenever he can stay healthy. The problem is Dougie Fresh, he can't stay healthy anymore. He already had 2 offseason surgeries, one on his knee, one on his shoulder here in the offseason. He's already still nursing other injuries. It could just be time for him to hang it up before the fantasy football season comes around. He could have retired by then. If he doesn't, maybe he moves on to another team and just tries to get, a little bit more out of what he has left in the tank. If he does, though, I'm really not interested just for the injury concerns alone. The guy is an elite wide receiver. His muscles and bones are not elite, though, at this point, and that's a problem for the wide receiver position. Then they went out and they drafted DK Metcalf. Don't need to talk too much about that. He is the Doug Baldwin replacement. He is the stretch the field red zone threat there in Seattle. They already have Tyler Lockett, who put together a great 2018. We know about the rushing attack in the backfield. Russell Wilson. They have options in Seattle. Unfortunately, it looks like Doug Baldwin's time is over there. He was very productive, like I said, in the past. He helped out a lot of fantasy football teams. What he will not do in 2019 is probably help out some fantasy football teams. Last on the list, I have the entire fan base of the New York Football Giants. I feel for you guys. I really do. You lost Odell Beckham Jr. You gained another first-round pick out of it, which was great. You could have drafted 2 first-round picks, the future of the franchise, not named Saquon Barkley. And what did Dave Gettleman do with the number 6 overall pick? He drafted Daniel Jones, quarterback out of Duke, and everybody collectively said, what the... Because it makes no sense. He would have been there with their second pick. Now, Gettleman's already come out and said, hey, there's other teams that were involved. Of course he's going to say that. He's not going to come out there in the press and say, hey, I was an idiot and took him way too early. That just doesn't happen. Like I said, I feel for the fan base of New York. Losing Odell Beckham, now you have Eli Manning, who looks like he will be the quarterback here for a while because Daniel Jones has talent. However, it's not going to be this immediate impact to the New York Giants. And there's already been clips out there on social media. Look how great he looks in rookie camp. The dude is in shorts with no defense, throwing check down passes to fullbacks. I'm not too overly excited about it. I feel for the kid. I feel for the fan base of New York. You have my deepest sympathies, and there's always 2020. All right, so those are a few of the biggest losers of value here in 2019. There's a lot more names I could have put on the list. Maybe you have somebody in mind that you want to know about. Throw it down below in the comment section. I would love to interact with you. We have one of the most interactive channels here on YouTube. If you leave a comment, you're going to get a response from us, and we really pride ourselves on that. Also, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, and if you do, let me know down below. I'd like to personally welcome you to Headliner Nation. Make sure you're checking out our website, checking out the draft guide on sale for pre-order, and also get your name entered before it's too late to get the autographed Juju Smith-Schuster jersey. We will be drawing a winner on May 31st. Running out of time. Make sure you get your name in there. Gladly shipping it off to somebody here pretty soon. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you later.